So I will begin by singing the Mangalacharana prayers and leading a short kirtan. And then we will speak on today's topic with reference to Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers of Queen Kunti, text 25. Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupa Sagana Raghunatham Vikram Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabdutam Haridana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanavitam Tamam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatadeshatarine Namaste Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Srila Gurudeva. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajak Acharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajak Acharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So we shall read from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti. Text 25. As we are, in a way, faced with many calamities in the world now, I will read about calamities. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Vipadaḥ santu śaśvat tatra jagad-guro bhavato darśanaṁ yat syād apunar bhava-darśanam. Vipadaḥ santu śaśvat tatra jagad-guro bhavato darśanaṁ yat syād apunar bhava-darśanam. Vipadaḥ, calamities. Santu, let there be. All. Śaśvat, again and again. Tatra, there. Tatra, and there. Jagad-guro, O Lord of the universe. Bhavato, your. Darśanaṁ, meeting. Yat, that which. Syād, is. Apunar, not again. Bhava-darśanam, seeing repetition of birth and death. Translation. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. I'll read the translation again. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Generally, the distressed, the needy, the intelligent, and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. As this is a statement of Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvida bhajanti mam. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. This is something we should always remember. For a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they are welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. So, in the process of surrender, Sharanagati, there are 6 divisions, and the first 2 are anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, to accept whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness and to reject whatever is unfavorable. So, although something may be unfavorable for our material comfort or sense gratification, it may be favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And Queen Kunti is considering that the calamities that she faced were welcome, because in the midst of the calamities, she was able to see Krishna or remember Krishna. And seeing Krishna or remembering Krishna means becoming liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Or in other words, going back home, back to Godhead, where there are no calamities. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. So in this paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is paraphrasing a beautiful verse from the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Beautiful in terms of the meaning and also beautiful in terms of the Sanskrit. And in fact, we used to sing this verse every morning in the old Boston temple under His Holiness Satsvarupa Das Goswami Maharaj, whose Vyasa Puja we were pleased to celebrate yesterday on Zoom. And I will sing that. Samashritaye pada palava pavam mat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham samashritaye pada palava pavam mat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam natesham. The translation is, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation. Now I should mention here, Mahat Padam, Mahat can refer to the cosmic manifestation, and Mahat can also refer to great souls, Mahatmas. So this actually means both. Mahat Padam, the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and also the shelter of the great souls. So, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Parampadam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So the ocean of the material world, becomes just like a puddle contained in a calf's hoofprint. Although there's danger at every step, devotee steps right over it. So, coming back to Srila Prabhupada's purport, one who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nescience, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hoofs of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger at every step. This material world is certified in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Yes, dukkhalayam. It means a place of miseries, a śaśvatam, and temporary. Even if someone is ready to make a compromise, all right, there are miseries, but there's also happiness. I'm ready to take both and continue my life here. But you cannot continue your life here because the śaśvatam, it's temporary. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. As Srila Prabhupada says, it is dukkhalayam, but they want to make it sukhalayam. It's a place of misery. They want to make it a place of happiness, which they cannot do. It is just not possible. Of course, there is happiness in Krishna consciousness, but not in trying to adjust the material world to create a materially happy situation. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. We're always in anxiety because of calamities. And the spiritual world is called Vaikuntha. Kuntha means anxiety. And Vaikuntha means a place where there's no anxiety. No anxiety because there's no calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, and my dear devotees, you are all sane. Of course you're sane. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. Well, this is a very important point, that according to our destiny, our karma or our destiny, we are allotted a certain amount of happiness and distress. Srimad-Bhagavatam, in two places, Srila Narada Muni and Sri Prahlad Maharaj tell us that nobody makes an effort to get miseries or calamities. The miseries come automatically. And just as the miseries come automatically, the happiness will also come automatically without our making any effort. So whatever happiness and distress are due to us, according to our destiny or our karma, will come to us. And therefore, we should not waste time and energy trying to increase our happiness or decrease our misery, which are going to come in any case. But we should utilize our time and energy to make spiritual advancement, to develop Krishna consciousness. So that is the intelligent course of action. And Krishna consciousness is such that it is enjoyable all along the way. It's not that you have to wait until you achieve complete perfection to relish the benefits of Krishna consciousness. But even from the beginning, there are so many benefits. In the Nectar of Devotion, or the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami lists 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. And one is that it immediately brings relief from material distress. And another is that it brings all auspiciousness. And Srila Rupa Goswami states that these benefits or these results of pure devotional service are experienced even in the beginning stage of sadhana bhakti. Of those 6, 2 are appreciable in sadhana bhakti, 2 are appreciable in bhava bhakti, and 2 are appreciable in prema bhakti. But these 2 very important items are appreciable even in the beginning stage of sadhana bhakti. Relief from material distress and all auspiciousness. And Rupa Goswami also analyzes auspiciousness in different categories. And one of the elements of auspiciousness is happiness, which means that even from the beginning stage of sadhana bhakti, we experience happiness. I mean, I don't know if I should say this, but when I joined the Boston Temple, the temple underwent a lot of improvements. And Srila Prabhupada said, Giriraj is auspicious. Now, I don't know if that's really a very appropriate reference in this discussion of auspiciousness, but by Srila Prabhupada's grace, yes, I mean, everyone becomes auspicious when they engage in devotional service. So, suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. Srila Prabhupada gave this same advice to the chief minister of Maharashtra at Srila Prabhupada's last major public preaching program, Pandal program, at Azad Maidan in Bombay. And the chief minister had agreed to be the chief guest towards the end of the program on Ram Navami Day. But there was a lot of political upheaval in Maharashtra. And we didn't even know if he would be the chief minister by the time he was supposed to come. And with all the turbulence, we didn't even know if he would even come. But he did come. And he was the chief minister still. And when Srila Prabhupada spoke to him, he said the exact same thing that he writes here in the purport. And he told the chief minister that, you know, as long as we're in the material world, there will be upheavals. So we should tolerate them and go on with our real duty of spiritual development or Krishna consciousness. And the chief minister spoke beautifully about Srila Prabhupada and his mission. And it was covered extensively in the newspapers, how the chief minister had lauded Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. And then, as Srila Prabhupada often did, not at the Pandal, but afterwards in a letter, he asked the chief minister to join the movement. But the chief minister didn't reply. And Srila Prabhupada said that he couldn't reply because he couldn't say yes, but he couldn't say no also. So he remained silent, but he really did a lot of service. And when you read my forthcoming book about Srila Prabhupada and Juhu, you'll see what a significant role the then Chief Minister S.P. Chavan played in our getting the permission to build the temple after facing so much opposition. And he was a pious man. But Prabhupada gave him the same advice. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that if you put a drop of oil in water, the oil doesn't mix with the water. It always remains separate. So the soul also, even though it's placed in the material surroundings, it doesn't actually mix with it. It always remains distinct and separate. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. There was a period in Bombay when Srila Prabhupada, in his evening Bhagavad Gita classes, was speaking repeatedly on the theme that at night we dream, but in the daytime, what we're experiencing is also like a dream, in that it's temporary. We call a dream as a dream because it's temporary. It only lasts, for a few minutes or an hour or less. But what we experience during the daytime is also a dream because it also doesn't last. It doesn't endure. So you would say at night we have our night dreams and during the day we have our daytime dreams. It's all dreams, it's all temporary. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. So the calamities in material existence appear to be loss, but they're actually not loss because they're all illusory. So it's like a calamity in a dream. But contact with the Lord is real and beneficial, and that is all gain. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotional service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. And that is the conclusion of conclusion means the end, not that devotional service ends, but yes, going back to Godhead is the natural result of pure devotional service. And when one goes back to Godhead, he lives an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge, without any calamities or miseries. And in this process, the most important element, of course, Srila Prabhupada mentions 9, as Prahlad Maharaj says, 9, Navavidhi Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, archanam bandhanam dasyam sakyam atmanivedanam. But still, of all of the 9, the most important is the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Lord Chaitanya explains this in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that of all the processes, the chanting of the holy name is the most important. And he says that if one chants without offense, he uses the word niraparade. If one chants without offense, one will awaken ecstatic love of Godhead, which is our goal. Hare Krishna. So I'm not sure how much time we have, but if there's time, we can take questions and comments.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful as usual. Thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule, very busy schedule, to serve our yatra. We really thank you. And like Miss Gia was saying earlier, we just hope this COVID is going to be over soon so that we can have your physical presence with you, your association. Thank you. Yes, I see one hand here from Rasakrita Prabhu. Please go ahead. And everybody else who have questions, please raise your hand and unmute yourselves. But before that, Rasakrita Prabhu, let me just check with Mother Namapriya if there are any questions on Facebook.
Hare Krishna Mataji, there's one question.
Okay.
So from Maharaj, yeah. This is from Tulsi Priya Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, will you be more elaborate on the point as calamities comes without our efforts? Happiness also does, so we have to practice Krishna consciousness. So she just needs more clarification on that, Maharaj.
Yeah. Well, she heard what I said and she repeated it. In Indian tradition, it is said that that one's destiny is written on one's forehead. Of course, sometimes we think it's like it's written in the palms of our hands. That's true also. But they also say it's written in one's forehead. And so in India, it's very common, like if someone is lamenting their bad luck, they go like this, like, oh, oh, why did that have to happen? It's my bad luck, my destiny. But when we take to devotional service, that's wiped off. There's a very nice verse in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that when you clap your hands in ecstasy, in kirtan, all the lines of your hands are wiped off. So, yeah, we have to do our duty. I mean, it's not that because we're destined to get a certain amount of happiness as we are destined to get a certain amount of distress, that we don't do our duty, to earn money for the family or to take care of the children. We do our duty. But as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, for the result, we have to depend on him, on Krishna. But we should not over-endeavor. In the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, also by Srila Rupa Goswami, he mentions 6 items that spoil one's devotional service. sadvibhakti vinashyati. And one of them is over-endeavoring for material achievements that are difficult to obtain. So we should do our duty, we should work, we should depend on Krishna for the result. We shouldn't over-endeavor. We shouldn't forget our real mission, which is to become Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead, in the endeavor, to achieve material gains. So I hope that answers the question. And from Zoom, Rasa Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandvat Pranam.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you for giving a wonderful class. I have a question on the very first line of the purport by Srila Prabhupada, where he has mentioned here that generally the distressed, needy, intelligent, and the inquisitive who have performed some pious activities worship or begin to worship the Lord. So my understanding was that the pious activities usually translates into a good fortune that translates into some material benefits. So is that also a precondition for start worshipping or starting the spiritual journey? So just a little bit more clarity on the Prabhupada's mention here on pious activities.
Yeah. Yeah, there are different kinds of pious activities, but what he's, as I mentioned, he's referring to the words Chatre Vidaba Jantimam, which means, that those four kinds of people approach him. And, those who are pious, they approach the Lord those four are those who are in distress, those who are in need of money, those who are inquisitive, and those who are seeking the absolute truth. And Srila Prabhupada says that all four are pious because they're approaching the Lord. But of them, the one who's seeking the absolute truth is the best because he has no material motive in approaching the Lord. But they're all considered pious. And there are the other kinds that Prabhupada mentions in the next line of the purport who thrive on misdeeds, Namam Duskritina Mudha Prapadyante Naradama. So there are four categories who never surrender to Krishna. And then there are four pious ones who do. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj. Shraddha Devi Dasi? You're on mute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the class. You had brought up the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service.
Yeah.
One being that brings all relief from material distress.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, does that necessarily mean that actual material calamities will decrease? Or is it more of our consciousness isn't so disturbed when they do occur, as seems to be discussed a little bit more in the last part of the purport, or both?
I would actually say both, because when you surrender to Krishna, he takes care of you, and Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna. Well, yes, all right. So sarva dharman prityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. So Krishna, when you surrender to Krishna, he relieves you from all sinful actions and reactions. But Srila Prabhupada has explained that a little further, saying that, okay, you surrender to Krishna. Krishna takes your sinful reactions in his hand, but then he releases them at the times and in the ways that are most beneficial for the devotee.
Mm.
So, yes, devotional service brings immediate relief from material miseries. It's more our consciousness.
Mhm.
It's more our consciousness. It doesn't mean we won't get sick or whatever. It's more our consciousness. We won't be disturbed.
Mhm.
The calamities may come, but we won't be disturbed. But at the same time, Krishna can relieve us from miseries that are due to sinful reactions. I mean, all miseries are sinful reactions, basically. So Krishna can also reduce our sinful reactions, which come in the form of material miseries or calamities. So that could be there too.
Thank you. That's helpful.
I have a question from Mahi Mataji. She's asking, says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, how can we know if we are over-endeavoring or just going about life's activities?
Oh, who's asking?
Mahi Mataji, you can unmute yourself, Mataji. You're on Zoom.
Maharaj, it was me that I asked.
Oh, how do you know if you're over-endeavoring? Well, we should have a balance in our life between the time we spend on our spiritual practices and the time we spend on endeavoring for material results, which is often money. And so in maintaining the balance, there are two aspects. One is that we should have enough time for our spiritual practices. And in general, we should spend 4 hours a day between chanting our 16 rounds, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, singing the prayers and the different things that devotees do as part of their spiritual program in the temple, which Srila Prabhupada said we should do at home also, if we can't go to the temple. And then the other thing is that when we're engaged in our spiritual practices, our minds should not be going to our, material endeavors. And so when you're chanting, instead of trying to hear the holy name, you're thinking about, the different ways that you could make more money or the different ways you could, protect your money. That is a type of over-endeavoring. So yeah, we should we should make our efforts, but not at the cost of our spiritual lives. As I said, what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world but loseth his eternal soul?
Thank you. And we have a question from Priti Radhikadasi. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you said that even in the early stages of bhakti, happiness and relief from misery shows. So there are some devotees that are genetically prone, like we are genetically prone to different diseases like diabetes or cancer or things like that. Similarly, depression also is genetically, somebody can be prone to. So if somebody is a devotee but is prone to depression and is seeking treatment for that, would it be all right to say that maybe they're lacking in sadhana, that's why they are not jubilant or cannot fight those negative emotions? Would it be okay to think like that?
To say to who?
Say that again, Maharaj.
Do you mean
To a
like
devotee.
that, or to actually say it?
To a devotee, or to judge a devotee that, oh,
Yeah.
maybe they're lacking something in their sadhana, that's why they are not, the effects of devotion are not showing.
We should be compassionate, and if a devotee is suffering, we should, think if we can do anything to help them. I think of a very nice statement by His Holiness Niranjana Swami, that if we see somebody in the material world engaged in sinful activities, instead of, just like judging the person or dismissing the person, we should think that that person is bereft of the mercy of a Vaishnava. And we should think whether we can be that Vaishnava who can extend mercy to that person and change the course of that person's life. As a rule, it's not beneficial to think ill of devotees. Sometimes So thinking of a devotee that, the devotee's depressed because the devotee's not performing proper sadhana, that could be the case. That could be the case. But can you do something to help that devotee, to strengthen his or her sadhana?
So Maharaj, it is a possibility that a devotee can be depressed, right? And they can be seeking treatment.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We had one case in Bombay, in Juhu. A devotee became a paranoid schizophrenic, a really extreme case. She thought that people were trying to poison her, so she wouldn't eat prasad, but she would rummage through the trash containers and just take the remnants that were there. And she would do a lot of extreme things that I need not discuss in detail. And her father was actually quite a well-to-do person. He was a lawyer, and he actually had been India's ambassador to France. So he came to Bombay to try to help his daughter. And he wanted to take her to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. And we weren't really sure what was right, so I asked Srila Prabhupada. And I mentioned the devotee's name. And he said, yes, I know her. She's a devotee. And then I asked about the idea of her father taking her to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. And Srila Prabhupada said that the mind is material, just like the rest of the body. And just as you can have a broken arm and it doesn't affect your position as a devotee, you could have a broken mind and it won't affect your position as a devotee. And just as a broken arm can be treated medically, a broken mind can also be treated medically. So he approved of her going, to the psychiatric hospital for treatment.
Thank you so much, Mama.
Maharaj, we have 2 more questions. Can you take them?
Well, either you or me.
So first Ashish Prabhu, and then after that Sumitira Vasu. So Ashish Prabhu, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. So good to see you. Maharaj, I have one question that I have always thought of asking you, and that is, I have read about all the difficulties you went through building the Bombay temple and your stay in India. So I wanted to ask you, what kept you going? It was a, foreign country, different language, different culture, all kinds of challenges. But what was the one thing that kept you going through all these challenges and you came out successful?
Srila Prabhupada, his mercy and our feelings of gratitude to him and appreciation for him.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
Sumitira Vasu, Mataji, please unmute yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, Indrat Pranam. Maharaj, I have a questions. In several places in the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada goes to several lengths to say a devotee will not pray for liberation.
Yes.
And earlier in the Bhagavatam, I think it's 1.2.6, he says that bhakti will be satisfying when it is unmotivated.
Yes.
So if we desire liberation, isn't that also a motivation?
Yes.
And Prabhupada glorifies Kulashekara Alvar in his Mukundamala Stotra, where the central theme of the whole prayers is, he says, it doesn't matter whether I go to heaven or hell or liberation, birth after birth, I just want to remember you.
Yes.
So which of these 2 paths do we take?
Oh, I must have missed something because I didn't see that there were 2.
Because here Kunti Maharani says, seeing you means we will no longer see repeated births and deaths.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I see. Yeah. But it's not that her goal is not to see repeated births and deaths, but it's a byproduct. Liberation is a byproduct of pure devotional service. So that's true. Devotees don't pray for liberation. Kunti is not praying for liberation. But it is a fact that by Krishna consciousness, you are liberated. But that's not the goal of becoming Krishna conscious. But it happens as a byproduct. And that's one of those 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. Moksha lagatu krit. Pure devotional service minimizes the value of liberation. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I think we don't have any more questions, Maharaj. Once again, thank you so much for your association, for your inspiration, for your wonderful service. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. If we're going to end,
Yes.
then I suggest we should conclude with offering Vaishnava Pranam?
Yes.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desired trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa trubhyascha kripa sindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Giriraj Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you. And dear all, please remember the next week our program resumes at 4 o'clock. We have a children's and family program next week with His Holiness Bhaktisundar Goswami Maharaj. This is going to be a program that is going to be led by children, for children. So parents are also invited. So please join us at 4 o'clock next Sunday. And please visit our website or information flyers and our Facebook page for all the programs that we have during the week. And once again, Maharaj, we're never tired to thank you for everything you do and for all the inspiration that you bring to every one of us. And it is really very merciful Vaishnava. We wake up chanting the holy name, and even at night after a full day of very stressful day, we can still go chanting with the holy name if we see Maharaj. Still chanting, still going, still inspiring. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. Always remember Krishna. Never forget Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very profound. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Because it's said in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Smartavya Satatam Vishnu Vismartavya Najatu Chit. That one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. And all the positive injunctions and negative prohibitions in the scriptures are all servants of the one positive injunction to always remember Krishna and the one negative prohibition to never forget Krishna. So thank you for that profound blessing.
Thank you. All glories to your inspirational service, Maharaj. Thank you.